Hey there, Swamp Heads. It's another episode of Swamp Thing Book Reviews. This time, Swamp Thing, Volume 2. This one was not as good as Volume 1, and by a long shot, I'll tell you. Now, Volume 1 kicked off with Len Wein as the writer and Bernie Wrightson, followed by Nestor Redondo as the artist, and good old Nestor. He's still in top form in the beginning here. I have no complaints about Nestor, especially in compared to what follows. But the stories themselves, David Michelini. I'm not sure who all wrote this. Could be a hodgepodge of a few different fellas. But what was lacking to me, or what had strayed off the beaten path, is a lot of the character. The character of Swamp Thing kind of turned into a Saturday morning type TV show type character. He's doing wisecracks and stuff. Let's see if we can find some wisecracks. It's no good. The fire's too strong. Nah, that's not a wisecrack. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. That Swamp Thing, he starts doing some wisecracks at some point, and I never saw Swamp Thing as a big wisecracker, a big Weisenstein. Now, it took me a while to read this. I read it. Exclusively on the toilet, and that's not so much. I don't mean that as to speak to a detriment in the quality necessarily. It was just the easiest, most convenient way for me to consume the material was taking a poop, taking poops. But again, the art. I really when I read Volume 1, I thought that Nestor Redondo's art did not quite live up to the same. It didn't reach the same heights as Bernie Wrightson necessarily. I might have changed my mind a little bit. Again, we're gonna get to what comes here in a little bit. Maybe it's just in contrast to this, but a lot of this stuff, just like great dynamism, is that the right word? Dynamism. Anyway, great anatomy, great detail. Swamp Thing is a character that should lend itself to great, exciting, evocative anatomy. He's literally just a big, naked, muscular guy. So you can really just like. I like the classical approach that Nestor takes to the anatomy, and that's probably why he followed up Wrightson, because Wrightson was also doing a very classic anatomical rendering of the fella. Damn you to death! That's in keeping with Swamp Thing. I don't know where it. Actually, I do. Here's where it goes south. Now, a lot of these are real classic. Classic in the sense that there's just sort of self-contained. They at least feel like Swamp Thing stories. He's fighting monsters and stuff. He's fighting the crazy cults and whatnot. I don't know. It's been a while. Maybe this is better than I remember. But I remember it being I don't know. Just David Michelini didn't really have the same gusto as Len Wein. But around where is it? So there's a sword guy. Here we go. It's issue number 23 or 24 or something. So he goes to visit his brother. And then it switches. So Nestor Redondo sticks around for this issue, and he's still kind of phoning it in. But this is the new Swamp Thing. The logo has changed. The cover is just awful. Whoever did this cover. I don't like to belittle or insult an artist, but the cover's awful. Anyway, so it introduces the sword guy, and Swamp Thing. He visits his brother. His brother turns him human again, and then it seems like they're going to do like a. It seems like they're going to go in the direction that he only turns into Swamp Thing sometimes, like the Incredible Hulk, and it's really. Here's where it really gets just dumb, and it's just out of character, and I was not enjoying it. I was not on board, but that's okay because they just sort of abandoned this whole thing. There was Hawkman versus Swamp Thing issue 25, but I guess it was unfinished, and like there's sort of the skeleton of it back here at issue 25, and it's really just. I know how to put it. Here's where it just really kicks into childish, your typical childish superhero fare. More in line with what you would think of. The sort of traditional opinion of comics of just sort of dumb and childish. It just sort of embodies that. And then we get into the Challengers of the Unknown, which I didn't know this was part of it. So this book's real thick. It's real thick for your buck. How much was it? I definitely didn't pay $39.99. I don't know what I paid for it. Probably $20 or less for this. But I would have gladly paid less to not have the Challengers of the Unknown. This is a Swamp Thing book. It's not the Challengers of the Unknown guest starring Swamp Thing. That's what it is. So Swamp Thing's just sort of there. He's along on these adventures with a bunch of dorks in pink costumes. And they all look the same. All these people look the same. There's black hair guy, there's blonde hair guy, there's red hair guy, there's other brown haired guy. It's just a mess. It's just a mess of dumb juvenile mush. Reading this was just like reading mush. And the art, there's no saving grace in the art. The angles, the anatomy, the movements, it's so wonky. It's so wonky looking. Let's look at this guy's anatomy. Look at this guy's fucked up steroid body compared to, let's get to that Swamp Thing pose in the beginning. Compared to Swamp Thing's fluid, dynamic, sinewy anatomy. Compare that to that. It's just, I'm not, you can see movement in this. You can infer movement and dynamics and motion. And in this, it's just like, looks like a balloon man. Looks like an inflatable balloon man. And another thing that, look at that angle. Look at this fucked up nonsense angle. He's just sort of floating in space. But one thing I noticed, you see how all these are squares? So the Swamp Thing story is presented in these neat panels, and the art is left to command everything. The framing is just so the art can take command. Look at that. Look at that great shadowing on his muscles, on his muscled butt. Love it. But you get to here, and the composition of the panels is just it's disorderly. It's all over the place. It's disordered. It's not that it's bad, that like you can't do that structurally. It's not that structurally that it's necessarily wouldn't work, but something just about this art and the composition of the panels and the shitty story, the lack of Swamp Thing when I explicitly bought a Swamp Thing book. did not enjoy this challenge of the unknown stuff. It was really, really a bother. This stuff should not be collected for posterity unless it's in like the basement archives of the DC Comics office or whatever. These, I don't know. Comics are a disposable medium. 75% of the time. 75% of comics are completely disposable, and I don't know. They're just meant to be forgotten. And Challenges of the Unknown was one of those. And then it picks up speed. The end of the book, you got a Superman and Swamp Thing story. I did enjoy this. I enjoyed this story. It was a neat little, because Solomon Grundy also comes from the swamps, and you got Swamp Thing who's after Solomon Grundy. Maybe he can learn some secret. And there's multiple Solomon Grundys for some reason that was probably in a previous issue. You got Swamp Thing with a tiny arm. Look, he's got a funny little tiny arm. He's doing experiments. Superman's kind of a savage in this. He's like, kind of like, kills all these Solomon Grundys at the end, and Swamp Thing's like, no, we should let them live. And Superman just kind of kills them. It's one of those, there's a lot of funny little examples of Superman just being a ruthless savage, and this is one of them. Quite not bad. And then it ends up on a I think this was ends on a high note at least. It's another Batman meets Swamp Thing, Brave and the Bold story, but I don't know. This comics is a mysterious medium. Things mesh and congeal in ways that a lot of times it's hard to define, other than it's just this pleases me and this does not please me. And something about this just pleased me. The writer and the artist, there was something pleasing about it. I don't know. It took it. It's corny, but it takes it seriously. It's telling a serious yarn. And Batman's a serious man. Swamp Thing's a serious man. They get into a serious situation. The art is fun. And again, dynamic and coherent. It's neat and easy to follow, unlike Challenge of the Unknown. There's emotional heft. As Batman lifts this crane, you see not just the heft of him lifting or it's a helicopter, not a crane. You see the physical, but also the emotional heft. There's emotion in his body language. There's emotion in him swamping through the swamps, and then Swamp Thing bursting through the doors. I don't know. There's just subtleties in art and in comics that's the difference between conveying an emotion and just being emotionally dead or emotionally distant. And this was a successful one. It was a successful one, all in all. Has some pathos. Swamp Thing's a creature of pathos. He's not a creature of adventures and globe trotting. He's a mopey Gus. He fights monsters occasionally, and that's anyway. Oh, another thing is in the Challenges of the Unknown. Never mind. It's not important. They undo the whole like him turning into a human thing, and it's not even his book. So somebody pointed that out in a letter column, an old letter column, which is why I thought of it. Anyway, yeah, this isn't good either. I don't know why this is here. This just isn't good. This is like something you would find on DeviantArt. Again, I don't mean to insult artists. Not that they're actually watching this, but I don't know. It just really does look. It's just bad. Just bad. I don't want it. It's bad. I don't know. Good. See? Good. Look at that. There's emotion there. There's emotion in Swamp Thing being beaten by these old people. Anyway, this video will probably only appeal to a minority of people, but that's fine. That's fine. Look at it. There's emotion. There's succession. Anyway, goodbye.